So today I want to talk a little bit about the accessible semantic components. At the very beginning, it would be nice if you would already know what is accessibility, what is it about, and why is it important for your applications, for the web pages, and so on. Because I'm not gonna waste any time explaining why it's important. You should know by now, I hope. So basically, I wanna give you some examples and some guidelines how to write a better code. We will keep in our mind the semantic and accessibility. Still, there is something which you should know so you can benefit from the talk. First of all, you should be familiar with some kind of JavaScript. It would be nice if it's React, because I will give you many examples from React. Then some basic knowledge of HTML. I hope that everybody knows. And also, you should be familiar with the Game of Thrones. It's very important. Okay, so let's start. Semantic code. Why is it important? Maybe you can tell me, why do you think that the semantic code is important for your application? Why should you focus on that? Or is it important? No? It's not? Okay. The semantic code is good for you because with the semantic code, with the correct markups, it gives the page content its meaning. Without the semantic, there's no meaning, because you have some content, but you don't know or maybe you know as a user, but the output devices and some bots, we will find out later on, have no chance to find the meaning of the page. So who will benefit from the good semantic? First, it's gonna be you. It's gonna be you because the semantic code is more readable. It's easier to maintain. It's easier to refactor and so on. Second, it's accessibility. The semantic is really important for improving accessibility of your application. Reason for that is because the standard HTML elements are easily recognized by all output devices. It means all different browsers, all screen readers, and so on. They all recognize HTML elements. And also for the search engine robots, if you work on any project where the optimization for the browsers, for the search engines is important, then you should focus on the semantic code. So we will start with some examples. I have really simple one. I have just a simple button. This is something which I can imagine every single one of you is able to design and code. Just really simple button with some icon and text. Then we have the code. Maybe this is how you would do it. We have bunch of div elements with some classes. The first one, which is the main parent, it's like wrapper around the button with the class button, so we can style it as a button. There is also class for the disabled state, which will indicate that the button shouldn't be active at that moment. Then we have some icon inside with another wrapper, and also with the JavaScript on click, so we can call some action when you hit the button. Then we have the icon itself with the font awesome. That's like really common way how to display the icon. And then in the end we have some text inside of the button with its own wrapper with the span and some styling with IDs and so on. So, is this good enough? Is this how would you do it, or maybe this is the current state how you do it right now in your application, or no? Why it's not good? Okay. Anything else? Nice. Maybe. Okay. Nice. Anything else? Okay. Very nice. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So this is the current state, which you already found out is not the best one, because we have the meaningless div. It has no semantic value, so we should replace it with the something else. Then also you mentioned that we have the on-click attached only to the wrapper around the icon, so it's not for the whole button. And also we should focus on the content of the button, the text itself. And we can also get rid of the span, because I don't think that we need that at all. So we should do better. We can improve it. I have several steps here. We should add semantic tag, which is the correct choice for this one. That's the button you mentioned. So we will replace the wrapper, the div, the parent one with the button. Just because of this step, we already gave it some meaning. Every single screen reader and every single search engine or bot will know that this is button. It will trigger some action and so on. Then the next one, we will fix the action. We will move it to the button, so it's not attached just to the icon. If we don't do this, then it's just empty button without any text, because the action itself was attached to the wrapper around the icon without any content. Then we will fix the text, because click me doesn't really tell us anything. It can do whatever. I have no idea. When I move it outside of the context of the page, I have no idea what I'm about to trigger. What kind of action is it gonna delete the information on the page? Will I add another element, or I will open the window? I have no idea. It's just click me. It can do anything. And then also in the end, I will just go back, and you can see that we do some kind of cleanup. We can get rid of the wrapper around the icon, because we can easily style it without that, and also remove the span around the login, because we can just style the button itself. So with all those changes, we have much better looking code. It's much simpler and easy to read. Also, maybe in the end, if I want to go to the next level, I can also remove the icon element inside and add it with some kind of class directly to the button. So I will end up with just one element, and it can do all of it, which we achieved at the beginning with a bunch of divs, like 4 different wrappers, and now we have just one element. So do you agree that this is better? Is it easier to read? Maybe? No? Maybe. Okay. So we had one example. We already seen the button, but we should talk more about the semantic tags. It's important for us to recognize which we should use and which we should avoid. The first, we have meaningless tags. Those, we love them, we use them everywhere. Everyone is wrapping like any kind of component in divs and spans. It's good for us because it doesn't really do anything. That's what we like, because we can just wrap forever at another one and another one and another one, and you can keep going, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't mean anything, but that's also disadvantage of the element itself, because it has no meaning, it has no value for the content and for the page. So div span, it's not really good for the semantic of the page. Then we have some visual text. We have the bold, italic, and underline. They are like a little bit older. I'm not sure if you like even use those, but it also gives no semantic value. This is just about the styling. This is basically the same what you would do with the CSS. If you add the class and you style it as a bold, then this is the same as the first tag. That's like really old one. So you shouldn't use those in the order to achieve some semantic value, because it doesn't give any semantic value. So we mentioned which are wrong, and now it's time to check what you should be using. I have some list. That's not, of course, complete list of all the semantic tags, because there is many of those, but I have some like the ones which you commonly use. At least I hope so, that you have some H1, H2, H3, and so on. Do you know what is it good for? Do you even use those? Yes? Then tell me. Sorry, what? What?
Because, for example, Google is searching for H2 tag
Okay.
on the page.
Okay. Okay. And now, what is it about if you wrap some text in H1? What is it? What is it gonna render? What's the meaning of the tag? Okay, yeah, that's headline basically. Yeah. Okay, great. Then line 3, we have that's the better alternative to bold, the B one, which I just showed you that it has no meaning. Then we have strong, which basically does exactly same thing. It will render the content in like as a bold, but it has a meaning. That's a big difference. This one, it has a meaning. So this is much better if you use this one. Then we have some lists. We have table, of course. We have some form, button, and so on. So you basically know those already. Then there's more. There are some more advanced, which maybe you never used, or you are not even aware that those exist. So we have field set. Any idea what is it good for? Yes? No? Okay, so field set is being used in form. I will show you later on. Legend as well. Then we have address, which I guess you already found out what is it good for. Then we have the delete and insert, which mark the state. This is good for showing some changes in the content, that some information is being removed or was removed, and something was added to the content. This indicates the change. And then we have the emphasized text. On the next slide, we have the new one, HTML5 text. I would say those are the best ones, because with this you give the page the most semantic value, and also you can use this for layouting. What you've seen before, basically you cannot like layout the page, or you cannot structure the page itself. Maybe you can structure the form, maybe table, but rest is just about giving meaning to the text. But with this one, you can like divide the page into sections, into elements. So you have the article, for example. You have the site, which can be some sort of side panel on the page, maybe with some additional information, or maybe with the navigation. You have the header. Everybody knows almost every page has some header with maybe logo and so on. footer, then main container, navigation section, and so on. There is more. So we already mentioned those semantic tags, and now we will check the examples. How you shouldn't do it, and maybe how you should it right now. How you do it right now. So you create the divs and you give it some IDs or classes, and then you style it. So you will create the div with the ID header, because you want to create and style the header on the page. Same with the footer, same with the navigation. Then also another example, you need to create the component for the selection. So you have some kind of select box, combo box. So you create the div wrapper with some options inside. I have apples, oranges, so I have two options. I can click on one, and then there is some JavaScript functionality attached to it, which will give it the proper functionality. It will make it work for me that I can select just one option and so on, and I will send the value to some control functionality, and it will do the magic. It will work, but it has no semantic value. Again, when I will check this page with, for example, with the screen reader or as a robot of the search engine, then I will just find two words without any meaning. I have no idea. I cannot even recognize that those are somehow connected, and I should be choosing just one of those. There's no relationship between, nothing. It's just like two words next to each other. There's no context. So we want to improve this. We can replace the header div with the ID, with the proper HTML5 tag, with the header, footer, navigation, and then the last one, which is this example, we have select, which can be easily replaced with the select and options. And for each option, you just insert new line, new wrapper. You will achieve exactly same results, but you don't have to care about like how it's gonna behave for like any other device or screen readers and so on, because you are relying on the like basic functionality of the HTML basic core, which you know that it will work. So this is much better. So we have on the left side, we have the bad one, how you shouldn't do it, and but still we want to compare why it's worse than the new way with the using HTML5. The advantage of this one could be that we are used to it. That's like easy for us to keep writing it this way, because we don't have to think about it. But on the other hand, it has no semantic value, and it's really bad for the accessibility. The correct way with using the HTML5 semantic text, we have the value. In the end, it can result in less code, so it's more readable. It's better for us as developers. It's HTML5, so it's like future-proof, and it provides good accessibility. The bad part is that you have to get used to it, you have to learn it. Then what about tables? Maybe you don't even recognize, but there is also something which you are doing right now, like wrong with the tables when you are creating tables for your content on the page inside of the application. Then you don't do it in the way as you are supposed to. So do you think that there is something wrong with this table, or is it good enough like this? Maybe it is. Maybe it's just a tricky question. Okay. And why? Just because. It looks fancy, right? So we should add it.
I guess it would be more meaningful to have,
Okay.
because this is like the title of the table, right?
Yeah, yeah. Could be. Okay. Nice. Maybe something else which we could add to like describe the content of the table. I understand that this is just really simplified example with just like one line, one cell. So, but can we somehow maybe extend this example and make it better? Okay, okay, yeah, I see. So this is what I would do in the end. You can see that there is much more. Of course, the first one was really simplified, but we missed some really important tags. You already mentioned the t-head, so we can define the header of the table, which basically describe the content in other cells below. And then we have the main part with the body, and in the end, maybe in some cases that's not very common, but you can also feel need for the footer of the table. That's for very, very complex tables when you cannot rely just on the header, but you also need to explain the relations between the cells with the footer. At the very beginning, you can see caption, which is some sort of headline for the table. This is something which almost never ever is being used, but it's shame because it's really handy. Just one, it's easy to add, and it's really handy for the people who use the screen readers and so on. Also for the optimization for the engine robots and so on, because that's additional information which they are like hungry for all the information on the page, which helps it to describe the meaning.
This caption element is used only for this case, like for table, or you can use it for another situation?
It just it's part of the table, so you cannot use it outside, and it should be always the first child element of the table. So you shouldn't wrap it inside of like t-head or any cell. It has to be first one.
But I mean, you wouldn't use it inside a form, for example.
No, no. We will find out later on. I will show you what you can use in forms. There is something else. Okay, so we'll move to form, which you just mentioned. And we have the basic example of some form, which let's say it's like registration. We will ask users for the name, address, email, current job position, favorite color, and in the end there is submit button. How do you feel about this one? Is it okay, or can you change anything to improve accessibility and improve the semantic value? Okay. Labels. Okay. Okay. I don't know yet. We will see. Okay, good. Yeah, those are like really good points. So we can go to next one. And here we have extended version of the very same form. And what I did, I divided form into two sections, let's say, with the field sets, which helps me to organize the content of the form. Because the first part, we could call it personal information, because I'm asking user about his or her name, about the address and email and so on, which is very personal. And the second part of the form is like additional information, which is not maybe that important. It's also, it could be optional. That's current job or favorite color. I don't really care if you will fill it or not. And the answer for your previous question was if I can use the caption in form. You can see that there is legend, which is exactly same as caption but in form. So when you decide to use field sets and you will divide form, this is really useful for big forms. You should always try to split big forms into field sets because it's much easier for users to navigate inside of such complex form because you have sections. Basically you will create sections. Also another change was adding labels. You can see that I tried to show you two different examples. First one, that's just wrapper, so I will create label and I will put inside the text itself name and input. So I will create the connection between text and input. Then the second option how to do it, that I will create label with the for, and the value of the for will be same as the ID on the input which I am trying to connect the label with. So you can use different ways how to create the labels. It's basically up to which is more handy for you at that moment. Also another important thing which is being changed is the asterisk. You can see that there is name asterisk. We all know that it means that this item is required and you should fill it in, but asterisk, it's really it makes sense when you can see it. But for example, if you will get it as the feed from the screen reader, it's not really that great. When you hear the word this one is required, it's much easier to process because we are not relying on how it looks like, we are relying on the words, on the text. Or even worse, there could be the way that in first example we will just display asterisk as an icon, which will be hidden from the screen reader. It will show basically nothing, so you will have no idea how to distinguish between the required parts and the optional ones. Okay, what else? Also types, you mentioned those, so we use the type email for example, then type text just for the normal text. Anything else? Yeah, and the submit, now it's a button.
What's the benefit of button instead of input type submit? If it does the same thing.
I think if you hit enter on the input field, the input type submit will be triggered as maybe on-click, but I'm not sure. Maybe not.
I would say in this case it's not really that big difference. It would be much worse if you would do it in the way that it's, I don't know, input without definition of the type and maybe with some JavaScript action attached to it. So it has no meaning that this is the input which is responsible for the sending the form. But we already have some decent state. So this is just, maybe for me this is easier to read because okay, I can see there's the button. I will send the form with this one. The rest of it, it's inputs for the inputting the values, and this one, that's button for the sending, all of it. So maybe this is beneficial for me as a developer. Okay, hopefully you are still with me because we will go to next slides and we will try to focus more on the accessibility. Right now we discussed a lot the semantic part, how to give the code the semantic value, and now we want to make it better for all those people who need for all those people with some special needs. So what kind of issues we want to solve here? I just picked the small part. Of course, this is not. If you solve those issues, you are not gonna make the whole application accessible. There's like much more. This is just small example which we want to discuss here right now, how to fix the components. So first issue that many very often when we create the components, we depend just on graphical icons. I will show you some examples so you will understand. Can you see it? Is it visible? Maybe not that much. This is example from our application. I work on one of the Interflex applications. This is the panel in upper right corner, which gives some functionality with like opening side panel, opening settings for the section, refreshing page, switching to the full screen mode, and so on. But you can see there is no description. It's just like bunch of icons, and if I don't understand the icon or if I cannot see it, then I have no idea that there is some functionality. The next one, there's some like trash bin icon, which I guess will remove some item or something like that. This one, it's even worse. This is the icon for opening like new window or new link. And this one, it's from visitor management, another application, and this is the card of the visitor with some additional actions attached to it. Some check mark, maybe some icon for the editing profile, or I have no idea. Basically, I have no idea because it can be many things, and in the end there is like again the trash bin icon, which I don't know. Maybe it will remove the box itself, this card from the page. Maybe it will delete the record about the visitor. I don't know. Basically, this is really not that great, and because I don't know what will happen until I will trigger the action. Then I will learn, but maybe it's too late. And what we do, how we create those components, this is a very common solution in our code base right now. We just use the font awesome icons. We will create the empty element, and it will render the icon for us, the one which we want. I guess you have seen this somewhere already. This is like really common practice. This is good. You will achieve the results which you want. You will get the icon, but it has no value. It's really bad for the accessibility because it just renders something, and it relies only on being able to see the content. So we have to fix it. We have to add the text alternative to every graphical element which performs some kind of action, which means that's anything, any kind of button or any icon which I can click on. It will do some sort of like filtering, or it will lead to the next page. It will open some details or any sort of action. Or the second possibility that it has information value. Maybe sometimes it doesn't trigger any action, but it gives me it provides the information to the users. So there is I don't know, the icon, the exclamation mark, and it says, be aware this information is really important, pay attention. But again, it just it's coded just with the relying on the icon, so we have to fix it. Issue with those changes is that it might change UI, and you don't want to do that because you have some requirements from the client, from the designers, from the UX guys, and so on, and they want to stick with the UI, the pretty one which they designed. So in this example, we have application filled with many teeny tiny icons, and if I want to fix it and I wanna provide the additional text to the icons, to the elements, then maybe I will end up with this, and this is really different than the first step, and maybe I will get the designer will be really pissed because this is something which they don't want. Personally, I would prefer the second option because I think that this is a good way how to do it, because I know right away, okay, this button is responsible for deleting interval. I don't have to think for a second what is it about. I know I can read it. I will understand the icon. If I don't, then I will read it. With the first option, I will have to think, okay, plus what is it gonna do? Maybe this, maybe not. I have to try. Anyway, we can do it in the way we can do it in such a way that we don't we don't change the UI. So we can provide the text information only for the users who cannot see the graphical icons, which means that the users with the screen readers, robots, or anybody who cannot process the CSS. So we will create the alternative way how to reach the information. We will do it with the CSS. We will provide additional text which describes the meaning of the button or the icon, and we will hide the text with the CSS from all the users which who displays the page in a normal common way in the browser. But at the same time, it has to be there and it has to be accessible for all people using the screen readers and so on. This is whole magic. This is how you can do it in CSS. There is a bunch of really weird stuff which makes no sense whatsoever. Please don't write it down. Any idea what does this will do on the page? What is it good for? Why there is so much stuff? Anybody? Okay. Really simplified explanation. This will shrink the element, which is if you add the class to the element, it will shrink it like on the page in the visual way. It will shrink it and move it outside of the visible like viewport. So basically it will make it invisible for you as a normal user, but it doesn't remove it in the way that it will be hidden for every user. There is a big difference. You can say, okay, this is messy, this is like hacky way how to do it. I don't want to do it. I will just do it in simple, clean way. I will use display none. That's it, right? It's just one line and it will do the same job. No, it will not. Because display none, when you use it, it will hide it for every user. Also including the people who use screen readers, because they are able to recognize this, and it will ignore all the content which is wrapped into the element which is labeled with display none. So you shouldn't ever use this because it will not gonna work in the way as you are like trying to do it. You are trying to improve it, but you will make it worse actually. So this is correct way how to do it, and I agree this is like really hackish, this is ugly, so we don't want to create this every single time. So we want to make it reusable. Right now I will give you the example how to do it in React, because that's something we do in our application. Right now we have the code in React. So we want to create the component which we can share and will use everywhere whenever we need to add additional information for accessibility. We have library. Let's say it's library which is called Morpho, and that's like top level library which is shared for many different projects, for all the projects for the Interflex customer, and every developer from any project can reuse this those atoms and those components from the Morpho. So we add the screen reader only component to the Morpho, which you can see is using the styles which I showed you before. It will create the simple span with the CSS properties which we need. And here we have the usage of the component itself. This is the extended version. This is example of the button. You can see that it's getting a little bit more complex than at the beginning. This is, if you can still remember the very first example in the presentation when I showed you the button, we have seen the bunch of different divs, wrappers, and so on. And basically this one is the final replacement, final good solution as a component for the React, which will replace the divish button, and this one means all the requirements when it comes to the semantic code and accessibility. It's accessible because we provide additional text information, which is part the formatted message, and it says default message show history. And this is the text alternative for the font icon. That's the line 12. You can see that's some kind of, I don't know how it's gonna look like. That's just really small button with icon of history. I don't know, any icon, whatever you imagine.
I have one question about this way you used to hide the information.
Yes.
If the user is using tab to navigate through the
Yes.
site, it jumps over it, right?
Yeah, and it will jump to the button. That's also important. That's the one of those reasons I didn't mention it because I forgot, why you replace the divs with the semantic elements, with the buttons, inputs, and so on, because by default you will get the functionality for the tab navigation. You can navigate on the page with the keyboard. With the divs you cannot do it because it's not gonna jump, because it doesn't recognize any element. You would have to provide additional meaning to it, additional functionality. It will be really hard to do it. You can do it, you can like define the tab indexes and so on, but like, why would you do that? You can get it for free just by using the proper semantic elements. So is this answer to your question? Okay.
Can I have a little off topic, but on topic question?
Okay.
What was the CSS clip property? I've never heard of it.
What? Sorry. What?
If you go a few slides before.
One, two.
Back.
That's more than three. Okay.
Correct. 000.
Clip.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I heard click. Okay, clip.
Ah.
This will clip the like what's being rendered, and it basically, it will not display anything outside of the like dimensions which you define inside of the brackets. So right now you defined the area which is size of 0 pixels. It's like hackish, but it's not. It's possible. There is no limitation. Nobody says that you cannot define it in the way that it's 0 to 0 to 0 to 0. So usually it was created in the way that you have the big picture, for example, and you wanna clip. Just let's say it's like mask in Photoshop. If you ever used like any kind of software like Photoshop, and you have like big photo, you want to just clip the small portion of the picture, just, I don't know, my head from the like this like a whole family, and you want to just clip one person from that like picture. So we'll just define the area which is being used, and you will just rip it off, and anything outside is not being displayed. So that's what clip does for you. And we want to hide all of it, so we use many different ways how to hide it, also because there is different support from different browsers. So this combination of different hiding ways make sure that it will be hidden in every single browser. This was being tested for many years, and this works, and I guess will work forever until CSS whatever 8 will be released. So on. Never. Okay, so we have the component interact. In some cases, we want to have reusable solution in less or SAS or whatever you will use. So we can create I call it visual hidden class. That's the class with the definition we just discussed. So this one will make sure that any content with this class will be hidden. I can import it in any file, in any less file where I need to hide some content, and I have the example with the media queries. So I can define that the button text will be hidden only when it's really small screen. This is just like stupid example, but you can see that you can create very similar, almost component solution inside of the less. If, for example, if you have just like really simple solution with HTML and CSS without React or Angular or anything. Then almost the last part is talk about the text accessibility. We have seen the components, which almost always contain some kind of text, and we have to make it right. We have to fix it, because what you do for sure right now is not really that great, and the reason for it that the text itself is not descriptive enough. That's all the buttons with the click me, open, OK, close, and so on. I will show you some examples. Click, I have no idea. I will click on it and I will find out later what will happen. Open, this is good, but this is good only when you can see the connection with the layout. When you see the placement of the button, and then you will recognize what is gonna open, which kind of action will be triggered. Collapse, again, this is the visual change. It doesn't make any sense for the screen reader because I don't see the visual change on the page. I don't see the content collapsing. Start, what I'm about to start, I have no idea. I will start filling the form, or I will start like some counter, I don't know. So the text itself should be more descriptive, and it has to be meaningful out of the context, the graphical UI. So when you rip the button and you place it on its own, it still has to have meaning outside of the design. So I will try to fix those buttons right now. I have the click, the better way. You can see that it changed a lot. It's totally different button, but this actually has the meaning which it cannot be switched with anything else. I know that this button is responsible for deleting attendance and nothing else. It will be never mistaken with anything else. Open next, the better way, open history details. Okay, I I know right away this one, it will open some details. And the last example is about the avoiding the relying on the layout or on the graphical change. Collapsing left box. I cannot see with the screen reader. I don't understand what's the left part, top part, right part on the page. I cannot see it. I don't have this information, so I need to get it in the better way. So the showing info panel, I know that it will give me some more information about some panel, whatever it is. So with this being said, we have some challenges because we want to create generic solution. As I showed you before, we want to have the components which we can keep reusing again and again, just like mindlessly. But at the same time, it should be descriptive. So we get the context from the component or from the button. This is example. This is from our application. This is like a person card, that small widget. That's the let's say like headline of the card with the name of the person, with the button so you can delete the card, and on the left there is some arrow which is responsible for the collapsing the widget, the card, and when you click on it, it will display additional information with some details like how many hours the person was working last week and so on. It's not that important. So this is how I would propose to solve this, how I would make this component. So it's generic, but at the same time it gives me good enough description for all the users which cannot see the layout, and with provided description they are able to understand what's going there. The important part is the line 8 and 9. You can see the accessibility helper, additional text, which says show content for. This is basically a replacement for this arrow. We decided to keep the functionality for the collapsing. The reason for it is that we have like really complex page with many cards. There's like 100 cards of the same type with for many different people, and if you would read it with the screen reader and all of those cards would be open at the beginning, it's kind of like messy. It will take you really long time to get to the one which you are really interested in. So at the beginning they are all hidden, all the details are hidden, and you have the option to collapse it. But again, the collapsing doesn't make any sense if you cannot see it. And the like smart part of this one is that the helper text show content for is being in the component is rendered before the label itself, and the label, that's the name of the person. And actually the label, it can be replaced, the name can be replaced with something else when we decide to reuse the component for displaying, I don't know, like name of the objects, like it will be like fruits, it will be apples, oranges, and so on. It's still usable because it doesn't say anything like show content for a person, for example. It's generic, but at the same time you will get the information that what will happen when you click on the icon, which you cannot see with the screen reader, but you know that it will provide you additional information for and this is the connection with the generated value, if it's the card about the persons or fruits or animals or whatever. Okay, so thank you very much.